Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden and this is my review of The Flash number 53. So we've been keeping up with The Flash recently, and you can go back to some of the older videos if you need a little bit of a refresher on what's going on. But the main event in the Flash comics at the moment revolve around the presence of new forces emerging in the DC universe. They are the Strength Force, the Sage Force, and the Still Force. Each of which are kind of going to be explored in further detail as we go forward, but were introduced recently in the storyline known as the Flash War. Now these forces are out and about in the universe and causing all sorts of havoc. While the Still Force represents an ongoing threat in the Justice League series, currently the Flash series is dealing with the Strength Force and presumably will be getting into the Sage Force in no time at all. We learn a lot about the Strength Force in this latest story arc, in which the Trickster is empowered by this force, but as we learn in this latest issue, he is not the true representative of that force the way the Flash is. His bonding seems temporary and improper, and is causing the villain a great deal of health problems as a result. So issue number 53 essentially deals with that, with the Flash and his somewhat wayward ally from the future, Commander Cold, working to find what's going on with these new forces and deal with the Trickster. He is powerful as heck with the Strength Force, able to easily overpower the Flash physically, completely resisting the hero's blows, and pummeling him basically into oblivion. This Strength Force is not something to mess around with, and seems to represent the same level of exceptional strength that the Speed Force does in terms of speed, meaning that a person bonded with the Strength Force is about as strong as any person can get in the DC universe, and that prospect is quite interesting. It's also interesting how this power is revealed to be associated with Earth. So while the Flash was hit by a lightning bolt and that connected him to the Speed Force, the Trickster was pulled down into the Earth itself when he was first empowered by the Strength Force, and it seems to happen again near the end of the comic when the Strength Force finds itself empowering the Flash as well. We'll see how much that lasts, but it opens up a lot of interesting possibilities, and I'll get into that in a second. Meanwhile, the rest of the issue is full of all kinds of crazy details, while we're seeing Iris West sort of begin a force quest of a sort, delving into her newfound memories of her past life in the New Earth timeline, while also dealing with these new forces and the history of the Speed Force in general. Essentially, she's taking the advice given to the Flash when he asked the other Flashes of the multiverse about these new and mysterious forces, doing what he is quite simply too busy to do. That makes Iris' story extremely interesting, while there's also stuff going on with the Iron Heights Warden who, while at first just seemed to be an abusive, terrible person, is a real villain as we find out in this issue, basically blackmailing the Flash just so that the Trickster could be safely housed in the prison once again after he turned himself over willingly, considering the Strength Force was eating him up alive. All of this made for a very compelling read that I quite enjoyed on the whole. It's a very interesting comic that really went places I didn't expect. I have to be honest, after the Flash War started winding down, I thought I was going to lose interest in these comics a little bit, but to be honest, they're ramping up. They're so interesting, and they keep throwing new ideas at you left and right. And I have to tell you, The Flash really is just one of the best series in all of Rebirth right now. It's just keeps you guessing. It really shows up the current state of the Flash television show, which, while I do like in the last couple of seasons, has really been suffering from issues of serialization. Basically, they spend 22 whole episodes dealing with one major villain or plot. Supergirl's going through the same thing, and it's awful. It drags out the season so badly, while these type of heroes and the tone of the shows really would benefit from a more week-to-week thing. Ironically, this comic is actually dealing with a lot of ongoing things, and there's a lot of random stuff going on, so the serialization just works a little better here, while each issue kind of offers its own thing, something entertaining and interesting enough that while an issue like number 53, which just basically sets things up for a lot of it while having a couple of fun little scenes here and there, works because this setup is interesting, and I really want to see where it's all going, because it's actually going to go somewhere too. That's the nice thing about Williamson's writing, is it tends to follow up on all the stuff that's nicely set up throughout his series. He's been doing payoff well, and keeps adding new and fun things to the Flash, while also returning fun things from the past, kind of blending it all in together into this new series that I quite enjoy. Christian Deuce and Luis Guerrero, who do most of the artwork of this comic, do a great job, while Steve Wan's lettering is, something easily overlooked but goes a long way in helping this series work. The way that the Trickster talks when he's all empowered by the Speed Force is a lot of fun. On the whole, I quite enjoyed this comic and think you would too. If you've been enjoying the Flash series so far, don't think that just because we're a few issues off from the Flash War, that the series has in any meaningful way let up. This new stuff is very cool, very fun. If I had a criticism or were to point my way towards a weak point, I really don't get the point of Commander Cold. His character, the whole animosity between him and the Flash. It would be super interesting if that was the real Captain Cold, but as it stands, it's just a stranger, so who cares? He's a new character and one that I haven't been particularly interested in just so far. He just seems really grumpy, while the Flash doesn't like him, so he just kind of doesn't come across as an asset the way that Iris does, or the Flash does, or even the Trickster does in this story. But I still like the comic, clearly. I still would recommend it. So make of that what you will. But I've got to tell you, my favorite part in all of this is I have absolutely no idea where this comic is going next. I see multiple avenues of where this plotline is heading. Perhaps the Flash is going to be empowered with all these new forces, particularly the Strength and Stage Force, becoming this new superpowered character, the likes of which we've never seen, even if it's only temporary. I could see them going that way, and I could see it being pretty interesting. I could also see us going through other members of Flash's Rogues Gallery, both the Rogues themselves and other villains that the Flash has made enemies with along the way. I strongly suspect we're going to see that at some point, at least, with the Sage Force. But what I'm really hoping for is that it's also a chance to introduce new characters, and new either superheroes or villains directly empowered and meant to represent the Strength Force and the Sage Force just as much as the Flash. Same goes for the Still Force, although I expect that will be covered more in the Justice League, since that's kind of Scott Snyder's thing at the moment, and kind of connects to whatever's going on following the whole event of DC Metal and all of that stuff. But I like that I have truly no idea what's going to happen next. It's not that this story is random, it's clearly leading to something, it's just completely uncharted territory. We don't have a lot of other superhero stories that we can adequately compare this to and thus predict what's going to happen next. There's a lot of different stuff and different angles they can take with this, but because this is all new ground in terms of new forces and a new plotline, it can go anywhere, and that's very exciting. You can't say that with a lot of other superhero comics in general, but DC Rebirth has been doing this in spades pretty much since Scott Snyder kind of nicely opened the door for all the Rebirth writers to do so following Dark Knight's Metal. It's why I will always love that event, because it did stuff like this and it worked so well in creating these new storylines for just about every series there is. And that's brilliant. I think that idea really traces back to Snyder himself, and he did every single writer and artist throughout this company such a wonderful favor in doing so. If you see Scott Snyder in the near future, be sure to thank him. So that's it. I do have one other announcement, and I need to stop forgetting to do this. We're actually going to be at Fan Expo on Labor Day weekend in Toronto, or more accurately, I will. So if you're going to the event, or if you want to meet up and say hello, by all means drop me a line on either our Facebook or Twitter page, the links to which you can find in the video description below, and we'll meet up and say hi to each other. It'll be fun. Or, maybe if you want, you can even be in a Comic Island video. We're going to be shooting there pretty much Thursday, Friday, and Sunday of the Labor Day weekend at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre in Toronto. So yeah, let me know if you guys are coming or around, and we'll totally hang out, at least for a little bit. Last time I went to this thing, I didn't do a great job at letting you guys know beforehand that we were going to do this. I think I offhandedly mentioned in one video, so I'm going to mention it in a few of these other videos and make a special announcement video before we go so that you guys know about it this time and we can do this, because I think that'll be fun. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to check out our Patreon page in the video description. And finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.